All right, class. Welcome back to another class and another episode. And this time we have John Saccheri, Big Fat Panda, returning for a third time.
Yay!
And I feel like every time he comes back, I have like 50 different things to ask him. But what we're going to focus on today is we're going to start with what he's been doing recently, because I refer to him as a world traveler. And then we're going to get into some of the 50th anniversary at Walt Disney World, and then some of the changes that have been going on with Walt Disney World, and then just the how to stay positive around Disney, because right now is a little bit of a awkward time to be a Disney fan. And so those are some of the things that we're going to talk about. So before we get into all of that, though, John, for people who didn't see the first two times that you gave your introduction, could you give us that brief introduction of where you started and how you got to where you
Uh,
are now?
yeah, let's see. Let's make it. I'm going to make it brief in case you've heard this story already. Basically, I grew up in Long Island, New York. Uh, Modest means nice house. Our vacation was running through the sprinkler for real. We didn't really go anywhere, maybe a zoo. So when my dad said we're going to Disney, I remember watching it on TV and thinking this is just awesome. We got on a plane, which was also foreign to me. It was like just this big event in my life at about either 5 or 6 years old that kind of got everything rolling. And then I remember getting on the ferry boat going across the Seven Seas Lagoon. And I just saw the castle and the monorail and everything. And I'm sure that it hits every kid. But for me, something else happened. Like, get me out of Long Island. This is where I need to be. And, I didn't even know this existed. You damn adult humans. Why didn't you tell me about this? And I said to my father right there, I'm going to live here one day. He's like, nah, you'll see. It'll be a nice park. You'll love it. I'm like, nope. And then when we did get home, that's all I talked about was moving there one day. Look, I'm killing my mic. And yeah, so I basically, I didn't go back till I was about 15. So there was a 10-year gap of just talking about going back to Walt Disney World and being fascinated with everything Disney, every Birnbaum book, every those souvenir photo books, which I know they don't do it anymore. Do you remember them, Cody? Like
Yeah.
the big hard books. I'd have to have the one from every year if somebody went and got it for me. So yeah, so there was a way to keep the magic alive for those 10 years. But then when I was, I think, 35, I said, you know what? I have enough where I can put a down payment on a house, which I couldn't in New York because those prices are crazy, and buy something in Florida and still be close to Disney and try to make it work. So that's my craziness that never stopped. So I kind of live Disney every day a little too much, maybe. I need therapy. I admit it. I don't go
I
for it.
I think one thing that one thing we wanted to talk about today was that I think Disney provides for a lot of people, it is a very therapeutic experience. It's a recreational experience where you can go and going from the root word of recreation, you literally can recreate yourself. That you leave feeling better than you did most of the time, feeling better than you did when you went in, because and even the idea of parking at the Magic Kingdom and either taking the monorail over or taking the ferry over, um, is just kind of representative of you are entering this other world. You're leaving your problems of the real world behind, and you're entering this. And you mentioned riding across the ferry as a kid. What are your reactions to it now when you ride across the ferry, or you first see the castle from the monorail, or you're not in the park yet?
It's still really special. I've never lost it. As a matter of fact, one of the things that we talked about, my dad and I, when I was a kid, is at that time there was the Polynesian and the Contemporary. There was no Grand Floridian, and he would say those are for the rich people. We're never going to stay there. So there are times now where I'm taking the ferry boat and I'm staying at the Polynesian,
Mhm.
and I'll call my father, kind of crying. I will. I'm admit it. I'll be tearing up, going, Dad, I'm on the ferry boat. Guess where I'm staying tonight? And he's like, oh, tell me one of those expensive hotels. So it's great to have that and feel like, okay, I've done something, but it's still really special to me. I think that's one of the reasons why I don't take it for granted, because I remember, as being a kid, but now I see kids today that grow up in Florida, that live a half hour away, and they're like, oh, Disney again. And it's like, I want to take them and just,
The you know, one of the every time that I see Disney, it just like it is that emotional experience. And I don't know if I ever told you that um the movie, the documentary, The Dreamfinders, when I watched that, and there's a part where you're talking with um Tony is the director,
yep.
and you're going over and you're telling that story. And I have to tell you, I watched that probably on loop when I was working just in the background a lot. And then, that kind of uh gave me the idea of I'm going to start talking about Disney more in class. And it eventually led to somebody said, look, you talk about it so much, like why don't you teach a class on it? And so like that was very, I'll tell you, that was very influential in
That's
like
cool.
me being able to open up my fandom into all of this. So
I
I
don't
don't know if I've
think
ever said that before, but thank you for that. That was
you're welcome. You might have said it. I don't even remember, but that's really cool that it had that effect, because a lot of times we don't know how we affect others.
yeah.
So that's good to know.
Um, and so the next thing I want to talk about is I alluded to the fact, I guess I didn't allude to, I called you a world traveler, because you have been, now you're who you're working with. You are being sent on assignments, and they're not normal assignments, what people might think of as work assignments. Can you tell us a little bit about who you have been working with, and then what you have been doing over this last 2 or 3 months?
So I'm really, really lucky. I think sometimes, the term, you found your tribe. I really feel like I found my tribe. I've been working with the Diz, and a lot of people in my little bubble think of the Diz as a really professional organization, which it is, but they sometimes think of them as negative. They're gonna complain, they'll do this. And I gotta tell you, being on the inside now, yeah, I joke around, I say they can be curmudgeons, but the truth is they really are honest with how they feel. And I think that's what they have, such a big viewership. If anybody there knows the Diz, I mean, they'll get 40,000 views on a video like it's nothing, but they get that because they are honest and people know that they're passionate and they're going to tell it like it is. If I tell you that I've eaten in 20 restaurants and I thought everything was fabulous, you got to take that with a grain of salt the next time I tell you something is fabulous. But if I tell you, a few of them are just absolutely horrible, stay away. And what I really appreciate with them and admire is that they'll say, stay away from something. This is a travel company. They make money because they're a big travel agency, Dreams Unlimited Travel. They'll make money by you going. For them to tell you when to stay away, I got to give them credit for that.
Yeah.
So I tend to be a little bit more of a positive voice there, but working with them has been great. I didn't lose the Panda identity. They probably promote bigfatpanda.com more than I do, which is freeing to me and they'll tell me sometimes when I go to host the show, which to me is amazing that they want me to host sometimes the Diz Unplugged show. It's a seat that you just feel like there's a lot of pressure here to do a good job. But they tell me, just be yourself, please. Don't try to be anyone else. And I'm like, I had to think about that for a minute, because I'm like, oh, now I'm going to mess it up because they told me to be myself. If they didn't say that, I would have just been myself. So that's a lot of fun. But yeah. So they, I've been on more Disney cruises than I can shake a stick at. I've eaten more filet mignon, but I'm still losing weight, thank God, than I've ever have in my life with this company. And they did just take us to Hawaii. So that's my world traveling, is going to Hawaii and a couple of cruises. So not that bad, not
It's
much.
and it's been fun to follow along with the adventures and everything. So I and any upcoming plans that you going out on trips anymore?
May 16th, we have the Dream for 4 nights, which is the
Okay.
Diz podcast cruise, which there's still
Okay.
cabins on if anybody wants to go. Uh, but yeah, the Diz podcast cruise is May 16th for 4 nights. They have Jody Benson doing a
Okay.
private for us, for the people who go on the podcast cruise from the Walt Disney Theater. She's going to do a meet and greet. She's going to do a piano thing. Really cool stuff they put together.
And um one thing a couple months ago, you were going to be on, and then actually I think you couldn't be on because you were doing a cruise. We were going to talk about the 50th anniversary, and because as people know right now, this is the 50th anniversary, and it started in October. It's going at least for 18 months. And so I wanted to, since we missed that opportunity, I wanted to talk about your overall impressions of the 50th anniversary, and kind of get into some things that maybe are good with the parks, and things that maybe need to change and things like that. So, what's your overall impression of the 50th anniversary?
The day itself, I don't know if we can, it's not a bad word. Can I say it sucked? It did. The day itself was terrible. And let me say, I shouldn't say that because the day I had a great time that day, but the 50th itself, nothing happened. And I was there for the 25th anniversary. So I can tell you the 25th anniversary had, there was like 1,000 trombones and characters coming down Main Street. You could look to the right and see Bob Saget. For real, I met
Mhm.
him there. RuPaul is on my left. Roy Disney shook his hand. He's over here. I mean, there was everything, it just was crazy. Uh, but the 50th, nothing. And they're going to blame COVID, I think, for why they didn't do anything. They did something for the media the night before with Chapek and Iger on stage, and that was nice. But the 50th stuff, we all got there early and waited in front of the castle. Not even an announcement. The regular welcome show. My face was just like, are you kidding me? I couldn't believe it. Then they knew the people were getting restless to hear something. So at like 2 o'clock, an announcement came on. It was like, it was just, you could tell it was just recorded like a couple of minutes ago. We did want to acknowledge that today is the 50th anniversary and Walt's dream is still alive. But I was like, wow, thanks. No special fireworks, nothing. Now, as far as the celebration ongoing, it's a lot of fun. To me, the first thing that comes to mind is merchandise.
Mhm.
Everything that has the nice 50th logo on it, the black or blue and gold shimmer, nice. The statues around the park, really nice. Apart from that, we don't have much. I think Tron was supposed to be ready already. Slowest construction I've ever seen in my life. We are getting the Guardians
Yeah.
of the Galaxy at Epcot, but yeah, as far as Magic Kingdom goes, it's mostly merchandise and just happy that there is a 50th and
Yeah.
that the parks are getting back to normal.
And yeah, I mean, we went and I got the 50th anniversary hat, and one of the cool things to me is going around, and we didn't try to find a whole bunch of statues. So it was more like we would just walk up and, oh, look, here's a statue. And
Same thing.
have
I
you
still haven't seeked them all out.
okay, I was gonna say, like, because I know there are people that's kind of new challenges as you go and you find all the part. Is there some, I'm sure there's somewhere where people have it documented now,
Oh,
where
if
where
I
every
Googled
statue is.
if I Googled and didn't find that, I would be shocked. Somebody
Yeah.
has to have done the legwork for me to go back. Although I remember Tinkerbell was hard to find. I don't know if you saw
Yeah.
her. Did you
I
find her?
I d- I did see her, but I don't remember where
She's
she
like,
is, because I mean,
it's
because
big.
she's very small.
Yeah.
Where is she? Do you?
I remember her being in the hub of the Magic
Yeah.
Kingdom. I think if you're at the castle looking down Main Street, she's on the right.
Okay.
And apparently, when the new Magic Bands come out, though a lot of the statues can interact with you.
Oh, okay.
They'll talk, they'll say something. I don't know if they're saying your name, but it's something personalized for because
Yeah.
of your
That's
Magic Band.
cool. That's very, very cool. That I think that and I would imagine those are things that are going to stick around. I think
I hope.
that
I hope.
because those are the where I actually did seek out statues was in Epcot. I wanted to see the Groot and Raccoon statue, or
Was
Rocket
it
statue,
was
and I wanted
great,
to see
right?
Figment. And we went in toward the end of November, middle of November, and so it had been, it was a month and a half after the official celebration began, and there wasn't the amount of just kind of content about the statues online as there is now. So it actually did, I had to seek out and kind of do a little bit of searching to find, like, based on the pictures, like I knew there was a picture of Figment and there was a monorail beam behind him, or you could see the monorail behind him. And so that did take a little bit of time to find, but it made it really cool because it was like, you felt like you had done something, you felt like you accomplished something. I thought it was interesting that it faces away from, like, if you're taking a picture with Figment, it's not facing or I guess the Imagination Pavilion's not in the background, which I thought was
Do you
rather interesting. But
do you remember Figment was somebody tried to steal it?
no, I don't. They tried to steal the statue.
Yeah, I hope the class laughs at this because this is some funny stuff. Two people were caught. Not this isn't a joke. I can find the article online. They had wrenches and stuff, and they were literally close to disassembling the
Wow.
Figment statue. How big is it, Cody? You saw it. You know it's big and it's got to
It's
be heavy.
got to be heavy.
So even if you could unlatch it and get it,
Yeah.
how are you walking out with this statue? I almost give them credit. Like, you tried, now you're in jail, have fun. I just don't get it.
Probably
Somebody
banned
tried
from the
this.
parks.
Yeah, I don't understand.
The and I mean, you could get I got one of the Christmas ornaments that it's about that big,
Shop Disney sold the Figment one about this big,
yeah,
a replica. I went to get it, sold out like that. I was like,
yeah.
wow. Yeah.
Was it did you get a Figment popcorn bucket?
I did not. I try to stay away from the big plastic popcorn buckets
Yeah.
because I have no room in my house.
They that was it was the 5 and 6 hour long wait the first day.
Then they finally changed it to virtual, which was the way to do it.
Yeah.
You order it on your mobile, you go, you pick it up. End of story.
So with with the legacy of 50 years of Walt Disney World, what do you think the legacy is for people that right now and in the past and then in the future? Like, what do you think it means that Walt Disney World has reached 50 years?
Well, first of all, I don't think they did Walt or the nostalgia of the company justice.
Okay.
Because in their new show, and again, I'm Mr. Positive. I love it. I'm going to tell you, I love Disney. I still do, no doubt. But I couldn't believe there was no emphasis on Snow White, the first animated feature. So I feel like they let it down. But for me, the legacy basically, I guess, would be just family entertainment that sticks with you, that becomes a part of you. I'm just thinking, it's more than the parks, obviously. It's just entertainment in general. I'm sure they're going to go on for a lot more than another 50 years if the world stays here. But yeah, I thought there'd be more nostalgia. Like, if you look at the new fireworks show or the new shows, it's all about the current stuff, which I understand. You want to, get people to stick with the recent IPs. But at some point, give me something Walt, somewhere where he or his brother Roy is quoted, "Welcome to this happy place." And they did it on the special. The special that they showed on ABC for the 50th was full of this nostalgia. A different team that made the special on TV knew this is what the 50th is about. And it seems like the parks, nobody knew what it was about.
On that, and you mentioned Walt and Roy. One of the coolest things from our last visit is obviously this is the partner statue, and actually I don't know if I have it here. Yeah, this I don't know if you can see this. Like, have you ever seen this? Is a lapel pin.
I've never seen that pin on sale.
So well, it's actually a really cool story. They're not on sale because I don't know if you remember pre-pandemic. And they've brought back some of the youth programs, but Disney had a youth program, and they had in 2018, I think, started a college program. Not like the college program where you can go and people can, do internships and everything like that with the company. But this was, you could go and take different courses there. So September 2019 was the last time I went before the pandemic hit. And I actually met with people there about taking a class taking students to Disney to do these different courses, because one course was I'm in a hospitality school, so one course was going to be where students would spend the day learning at the Polynesian, and so they would go through different things that happened at the Polynesian resort. And then another course was actually going to be in the Magic Kingdom, where they talked about like the culture of the company and all of this. And so when I went to meet them, and I mean, this was like, you talk about just, it was an amazing experience for me. Like I go and I meet these people, and they take me backstage, and then they said I'm allowed to say it. I just couldn't take pictures. That they said, we're going to go somewhere that you can't take pictures, but yes, you can tell people about it. And so we walked in the utilidors for about 5 minutes, and I just like almost lost my mind that I'm down there. And at the end, that they gave this pin, and they said,
That's
everybody
cool.
who does this gets one of these pins. And then we were going to take a class in May 2020, and obviously that didn't happen. And I've always just kind of felt sort of guilty for not, I never wanted to wear it because I feel like I didn't actually take somebody there to do it. But then
Not your fault.
I don't really think they've brought it back the same way that it is. So now I kind of feel like it's okay to wear it and tell the story. And it was because it was such a cool idea, and it's such a cool experience. And hopefully at some point they will be able to bring back more of that original idea.
Did you take the tour where they showed you the room where they make the wigs and stuff?
No.
Okay.
Um,
One of the things that stands out to me, I know it's a little off topic, was when I did that tour, they took me to a room where they showed me all the princess wigs and how the people work on them, looking at the cartoon and stuff to make
Yeah.
sure it looks similar. And they can only use it for, I think it was, I'm sure they've upped it now with budget cuts, but it used to be 5 days. 5 days, the wig cost $10,000. And 5 days in the Florida sun, they say, renders it unusable. I'm sure it's probably up to 8 or 9 days now. And then they have to buy another one and do it again. I was like, it just made me appreciate where my money went.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I $10,000 wig, 5 days. Yeah, okay.
And so the cool thing about this last trip when we went in November 2021 was my boys have gotten really interested in the statues. And so like we took a picture by the partner statue. And especially my youngest son, he was seeking out the Roy Disney statue. And so we got a picture sitting by Roy and Manny on the bench. And what's interesting is I have yet to find he wanted that for Christmas. And I've yet to find a statue of that. Like I have the Hallmark Christmas ornament that's the partner statue, but to my knowledge they haven't made an ornament or anything that was with Roy Disney. And I think that's really important because he is the reason it's called Walt Disney World. Actually,
I'm gonna do a search for that and I'll get back to you. I feel like I've seen Roy on a bench ornament. I feel like I have. Could be in my mind. I could be totally making it up.
So I think I might be getting it confused with another Walt statue, because there's a different statue at Walt Disney Studios in Paris or in France. And I know they did one that there's an ornament of that. But I can't remember if it's, but yeah, so that was like a fun thing for me, like as a father, to like sit back and see that and have them interested in looking at the different statues and everything. And so I hope those 50 statues do stay around, and are kind of a fun way to see through the parks.
You see the statue we're getting at Epcot, right?
Yeah.
Thank God they're doing. I mean, it shows that somebody still knows what's going on in the parks. Yeah. I think it's called Dreamers Point, and they're going to have just a Walt sitting down dreaming. That's going to be a big deal over at Epcot.
Yeah. Is there any update on when that will? I mean,
by
some of the walls in Epcot have started to come down, so that's a good sign.
By 2062, which it'll take. No. Yeah, I mean, we're getting Guardians of the Galaxy next month, which is pretty amazing to me.
Yeah.
Walls are coming down, but there's still so much that. Remember all the stuff they announced?
Yes. Yeah.
Who knows what's coming, what's not coming? Are we still getting Cherry Tree Lane at Epcot? I don't know.
I know.
The Moana experience is coming, but they know that's just a pretty waterscape environment to
Yeah.
walk through. It's not going to be much. My big thing with Epcot is when the Imagination Pavilion gets an overhaul, because
Yeah.
right now it's just a waste.
The and you know that was always my favorite attraction there. Figment is quite possibly my favorite Disney character
Me too.
out of anybody. Movies and anything, especially definitely out of parks, because frankly, he's the only one that's not in a movie from the parks, unless you count Inside Out. But I would like to see how that would be rethemed, or how it would be fixed up to bring it back to either have some semblance of. I would love to see Dreamfinder in there somewhere.
Me too.
And maybe have I identify with Ron Schneider as Dreamfinder, but if they want to bring back the more like kind of steampunk version from the comics, that's fine. I think it was a really interesting story to tell people, especially like when I was a kid, to learn like this is the physical embodiment of what imagination is, and here's what imagination is, and creativity and imagination can help you do different things. And so yeah, I would love to see all of that.
They reduced Figment to a spoiled brat, annoying child, and it's like, how did that happen?
Yeah.
Who okayed that? So yeah, I wish, like you, it would be an original attraction ride with Dreamfinder and Figment. And if they did it something like Mystic Manor, trackless, and they have the room for it because that building's humongous.
Yeah.
They could do amazing things. They would have a line out the door again. Right now, it's like walk on almost all the time. And there's a reason for that, because it's not good.
The what's interesting is in the ride, you said like he's kind of this spoiled child and that's the persona in the ride. But then over the last 10 years, maybe not quite 10 years, but he has really become the logo essentially of Epcot. I mean, he's on everything
because they know us older people love it and remember the other. Eventually, they're not going to remember what he was like. I hope they continue that, or change it.
Yeah, it's very interesting to look at the differences between the ride and then like how he's treated in the rest of the park and on the merchandise and everything.
Yep. They know that we love him, obviously. Well, look at the popcorn bucket.
Yeah.
Did they know it was going to sell that many? I don't know if they knew.
Well, I think if they knew it was going to sell that many, they would have done virtual from the very beginning. I remember you and I talking one time about, it was when maybe the new Harry Potter ride had opened at Universal, and Universal tweeting out and bragging about how it was a 10-hour wait. And we had a conversation that I'm not really sure 10-hour wait is something that like is this major accomplishment, because that's basically your guests aren't experiencing anything else if they're standing in line for 10 hours. It's the same thing if you're standing in line for 5 or 6 hours to get a popcorn bucket, and then by the time you get up there, it's probably sold out, or that's not a great experience. So what are some of the things that you've seen from the 50th anniversary that you think is moving the parks and the park experience forward in a positive way? And what are some of the things you think maybe are moving it forward in a not so positive way, or a more negative way?
It's funny because I don't know like what's from the 50th anniversary and what's just from the pandemic and all that. Positive way. Again, I don't know what's really from the 50th and what's from the. I don't know if the 50th.
And that should be the question. Like, what's happening now? What's positive? And
remember how they had cavalcades where these things just pop up. A float comes with a bunch of characters. I love that, and I thought that was really good to have it spontaneous, where you don't know. Oh, here comes Elsa and Arendelle friends, and people went crazy over it. Here comes Jack Skellington, and that was cool. What I like is even though the parade is back now,
Yeah.
they're still keeping some of those cavalcades. It's a great injection of life into the park, especially because there's less live entertainment that used to be on the
Yeah.
street. The the citizens of Main Street and the citizens of Hollywood and all that. I hope they come back for sure. But I like that cavalcade stayed. Um, it's amazing how much I don't know if this is a separate conversation, but how much the park's changed since 3 years ago. Is that part of this question, or is that
Yeah,
something
yeah, yeah.
separate? Okay,
No, that's
because I joked around. We have a grocery store here named Publix.
mhm.
Publix is our big shopping grocery store. So just input whatever I say here with the shopping store that you have. Piggly Wiggly, ShopRite, Pathmark, King Cullen. I don't know what's over there by you. What's the big
By the
one?
by the way, John, Publix is there are a lot of people that are very jealous of places that have Publix because of
Publix is pretty awesome. What is the big grocery store over there
So
by you?
we have Kroger here,
Okay,
and then
Kroger. Yeah,
there's Hy-Vee is a brand from the Midwest that is starting to, they're going to open up stores
HIV.
and no, Hyvee.
Okay.
Hy-Vee. Yeah.
Oh, all right. In any event, let's say Kroger's, you went to go in it now and they go, oh, I'm sorry, you can't come and go grocery shopping today. Do you have a reservation? You're like, oh, that's new.
Yeah.
Okay. Then you go the next day, you have your reservation. And they're like, okay, do you know what items you're going to get? You're like, yeah, I'm just going to go shop. And they're like, yeah, but did you make a fast pass for the milk aisle? Because you can't get milk today unless you have that. And it's like, wow, that's changed. If the way the changes have piled onto what's a normal guest experience at a park, you almost have to go to a class. Again, I'm saying I'm still going, still having fun, but I look at the average person that may not know you need a park reservation. There are some rides that are only going to be virtual or individual lightning lane. Otherwise, there's no, used to be you could just wait and you'll get on it no matter what. Now, no, for some of them. I do think it's going to get more normalized as things happen, but some of these changes are a little crazy. And the parks are crowded. They are crowded.
And they're yesterday, actually this morning as well, there was a story going around about an international traveler who didn't have park reservations. And so, it's kind of like holding a sign, like I need park reservations. And Disney's biggest competitor, Universal, gets to reach out to that person and invite them to Universal. That it is the last time that we went. It was really interesting that the last time we went, it was a milestone birthday for me. It was we were celebrating one of my kids' birthdays also, and so I kind of said we're going to go a little bit bigger, and that was my justification for spending more money. I think I'll probably justify it every time we go, but we typically don't stay on property. We stayed on property. We stayed at Art of Animation. So I wanted people to experience taking the Skyliner around, which is amazing.
Awesome. I agree.
I knew as soon as I had stayed on Disney property when I was younger, I knew as soon as I did again, like that's the option I want to do every time. And it is staying there and being able to take the Skyliner and the bus and everywhere was pretty awesome. And so we did the Genie Plus, and I didn't purchase it beforehand because I kind of wanted to see like day to day what we would need to do. But I had read up on it and I talked to people about it, and there were parts that worked really, really well for us. But so we did the Genie Plus, and then we would do some individual lightning lanes for some of the rides, like Rise of the Resistance and the Flight of Passage, like some of the ones that I knew if we didn't, it would be like a 3-hour wait, and we didn't want to do that, especially with younger kids. But I was very aware that when we were walking up to the front of the line, I was very self-conscious about the fact that everyone else standing in the standby line or the queue knew well, that person paid for special access to this. And it was a little different for me because under the Fast Pass system and the Fast Pass Plus system, like Fast Pass Plus, everybody got 3, right? And so if you're standing in line and you see someone walking up, you know, okay, well, they're using one of their 3,
Right,
or
right,
they've
right.
used their third and they're like going individual ones now. And the same thing, if you're walking up, you know, everybody else in line has the opportunity to do that. I'm not saying I won't do it again, because I definitely will. It didn't bother me enough that like
But that's
we
interesting. It
weren't
made you
doing it,
feel like,
but it made me feel like, look, we are having a different experience because we are able to have a different experience. And
I never thought of
if we
that.
win a lot, we wouldn't be able to do that. And so it's really interesting to me that, and I've talked to a few people about it, that I wonder how that will impact the guest experience moving forward. That, you know, this idea that yes, you do need to have reservations. You need to, as you said, take a class on it. You need to plan ahead. You need to do all of these things in order to kind of quote unquote have a good time when you're on vacation. And then but I also wonder if at some point some people are going to think, well, you know, it's just we don't we have the money to go if we save up, but we don't have the money to do all these extra things. And when we're there, that's not going to be the best experience because we're going to be seeing all these people doing other things that we can't do. And so we're just not going to do it.
You would
And
think that that
and
would occur, but based on the crowds and the population of the
yeah,
parks, that's not happening, which is weird to me because I feel like it's motivating them to keep this up, the
yeah,
nickel and diming stuff, and to keep it up and not give perks without paying. I think one of the Disney executives actually said some people have more money than time, and they know that, and they're taking advantage of it a little too much. And I don't like that it's so apparent. If you want to get money from me, do it in a way where I don't know you're doing it, so I'm happy. But you're blatantly doing it. It's kind of just, it's odd. And it's a PR I think it's a public relations problem for them that eventually I think will bite them. Although when you say like somebody like Universal is saying to those people, come here, we don't have a reservation system. I can tell you, I think they wish they had it. They
mm,
just didn't put the money towards it because the reservation system allows you to know how to staff your park,
yeah.
how many people are coming. You know, you get to control a lot more things. So you can go to Universal, and I've been there recently where you can forget about getting on anything without a 3-hour wait.
Yeah.
And the express pass at Universal, did you ever look at the price of it?
No, but it's a lot more than the Disney Genie, isn't it? Or Genie
Yeah,
Plus. Yeah.
I took my niece because she wanted to see Harry Potter. She was visiting from New York. I think she's 13 years old, and we saw that the lines were, you know, a couple of hours each, and the express pass for that day was $275 per person. I couldn't, I mean, we didn't buy it. I couldn't believe it. I wasn't going to spend an extra $600, but that would have let us pass the lines for that day.
The
So now the $15 doesn't sound so bad. It's just that it's Disney and we don't expect it.
yeah, yeah. And is it I had heard at Universal, if you stay on property, then you do, that's included in your package, right?
Correct. I don't think it's
Okay.
all the hotels, but I think most of the hotels
I was
do
gonna
give
say
you
you
that.
could have
I know. I could have
you
booked a
you could
night.
have booked a hotel room and maybe come out cheaper
I
than
think
doing
you're
that.
right. I think you're right. I could have went to the Endless Summer Resort, $200 a night maybe, and got that. I agree.
Um
I'll think
yeah, I
about that
mean
next
it,
time.
you know, there are other companies that are doing it, and it also kind of speaks to this, like, this more consumerism world that we live in, that everything now is, like you said, like somebody said, people have more money than time. Like you pay for everything, and you want things right now. And because we have created kind of this society, this consumer society that we have, like, well, then yeah, if you want these perks that used to be like free perks or used to be special perks, like now you have to pay for that, and you want something better, you're going to have to pay more for it, and all of this. And so it is interesting to see. And somewhat unfortunately, these things typically don't change, It's not going away. It
I do wish they'd simplify it. Like there's a
yeah,
lot of rules, even with the Genie Plus. You can't get another one until you use the first
yeah,
one, and then you can't repeat the same ride that you can't. If you did the Haunted Mansion, you want to do that again on your Genie Plus unless they've changed it. I don't believe you can repeat it. So there's a lot of different like little rules and
yeah,
stuff that it's a lot. Then there's an individual lightning lane
yeah,
separate from the Genie Plus. You don't need Genie Plus in order to get the individual lightning lane, but you need to make your reservation when the park opens.
yeah,
And if you don't do it at the and then there's early morning hours that the park opens, but you can't make your reservation for that at that time until I live it, I breathe it, and I do it, and I still get thrown off by the
yeah.
rules and regulations.
So as someone who is local, who previously, you might go and spend a couple hours, and you might go on a ride or two. And that's generally, I mean, you're local, you're not doing rope drop and all of that most of the time. How has it changed your experience? Like, do you just walk around more now and you don't ride anything? Or have you used Genie Plus ever? Have you used
I
Lightning Lane?
definitely used Genie Plus and have enjoyed it for the most part, which is kind of scary. Uh, a lot of times we can't get the reservation for the park that we want to go into, but
Okay.
now after 2 o'clock you can hop.
Yeah.
So let's say you can always get Epcot usually, not always. So if I want to go into the Magic Kingdom, I just know, okay, after 2 o'clock, I'm gonna go to Epcot first. At 2 o'clock, I'm gonna go to the Magic Kingdom. But with the Genie Plus, I have been able to say it's gonna cost me $15 today if I want to get on 2 or 3 things, Splash Mountain, Thunder Mountain, stuff like that. Uh, I've been less successful with it in Epcot for stuff like Ratatouille. I've been waiting longer, I guess, because it's newer. For Epcot, it's probably the one place I don't even think I would probably get Genie Plus. But yeah, it hasn't changed it too much for me, except I'm modifying my life to still have the fun that I'm used to, if
Yeah.
that makes sense. I'm making my little modifications and I know my little tricks, park hopping, you know, trying to do certain rides at certain times, stuff like that. I went to Soarin' the other day where the park was crowded. It was only a 40-minute wait, which I thought it would be like a 2-hour wait based on the crowd. So sometimes it's not what you think.
Yeah. Do you do you think park reservations will ever go away?
I don't. I wish
Yeah.
they would, but I don't. I think there's too many benefits and cost saving features for them as a company. Again, staffing. I've been in the Magic Kingdom where I'm sorry, someone in my eye, where it's closed at 10 o'clock. And at 9 o'clock, they'll go, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to stay open for an extra hour. So the Magic Kingdom is now closing at 11 p.m. The park is so crowded, they were able to talk to their staff somehow. I'm sure that's not easy,
Yeah.
and have it be open an extra hour because they knew not only could they make money, but there's a lot of people here. They don't have to worry about that anymore.
Yeah.
They know we have to have this man, this, and that. Uh, yeah, I think they want to control who's coming, who's going, all that stuff.
Okay. And aside from the park experience, another thing I want to talk about is we talked before we recorded a little bit, and I don't want to get into too much of like the political kind of
I got you.
meetings and everything going on, but right now is a kind of a weird time to say you're even really to say you're a fan of Disney in
Well, you'll
some
have 2 or 3
some
people like, "Oh
instances.
my God, you want
Yeah.
to kill children or something?" That's like, stop.
And so one thing that like the original idea, or ever so everybody knows, when I first messaged John, I said, hey, you're back from your trips, can we talk? We'll figure out something to talk about. And then after that is when I said, hey, I want to talk about positivity with Disney. Like, how do you stay positive right now being a fan of Disney, with like this kind of weird environment that we're in within the company, outside of the company, and all of this, kind of just awkwardness going on.
I think for
What's
me
your
because
advice?
I think for me because it's part of my work. I don't even have a choice. I don't have a choice even as an individual because I love it so much and
Mhm.
a lot of my life is invested in it. and I'm not getting it anywhere else. There's not another theme park that I can go to and see the tiki birds. I can't see the Haunted Mansion anywhere else. So I'm always going to find the good. I don't like the current leadership. I don't like that so many things are public. If you want to rally for something or promote something, I don't need to know about it. Uh, politically, I wish they would kind of not be as involved if they want to be and do their things like with the curtains closed, not so public. I'm all for that. I guess I understand why they need to say certain things and do certain things. And I don't even know a lot of it myself. I really have to go deep into the law to figure out how I feel about everything. I just wish they seem to have a public relations issue, no matter what it is, whether it's this political environment now, like you said, the Scarlett Johansson thing. Like, what company is doing a public fight? Even so much as, how there's certain vloggers that Disney now comes out almost against and calls them unscrupulous, and we know who they're talking about. And it's like, what big company does that? As Pete Werner would say, you don't punch down. Like, to see a big company like Disney fighting with a Disney vlogger, it's just kind of like, really? Is that what we've been reduced to? It's like, it's just silly. And I think that's a PR issue that they have to solve, their public relations. People should not, we have a personal relationship with this company emotionally. So I don't think we need to know everything that goes on. Does that make sense?
Well, and yeah, I think like what we've talked about in class a few times is it's a PR, but it's also communication within the company, and understanding who your cast members are and who your employees are. And the company took a very public stance on when they added the fifth pillar of inclusivity to their company. And then to make some of the moves that they've made recently, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of communication going on with, here's why we did this, here's why we made that statement, and now what are we doing with this?
Do you remember it didn't come fast either? There was a lot of pressure
Yeah.
to make the statement. So it's like, do you really feel this way, or was it because of the pressure? Like,
Yeah.
I don't really know where they stand half the time on everything.
Well, and I do think it's interesting when people say, like, because there was pushback from across the company. Marvel's putting out statements, Pixar's putting out statements, Lucasfilm is putting out, major pushback that then caused this statement to be made and kind of coming out against and stronger opposition, and standing up for what their fifth pillar is about. Then there's also there's the people that are within the company and fans and everybody that says, hey, you just need to stay out of it, and you need to, like, this is an entertainment company. It shouldn't be a political company. And there are two things I'll say about that I think. One, it's interesting that Walt Disney World exists for very political reasons, as you know. The company was able to get the Florida legislature to do just amazing things for Walt Disney World to even exist.
Right, that Reedy Creek Improvement District.
Yeah, and and now there's kind of, I guess, I don't know, a battle or whatever about that. So when the company has always been very political, and I think, but there has been that communication, and it seems like there has been, like, the public relations aspect of it that I think they have really, when Bob Iger was CEO, I'm going to say her name incorrectly, but I think her name is Senya Muka, was kind of chief public information officer. And obviously there were people who were upset about things that Bob Iger said and decisions he would make. But I think for the most part, the PR was really was handled very, very well.
And just to clarify what I said before is I don't want to see Disney out of it. Like, I don't want to see them not taking a stance. I don't want to, I want to see their PR doing it in a way where it's not construed. Because right
Yeah.
now, to say that you're not for this bill turns you into, oh, so you
Yeah.
think children should be taught about sex from kindergarten to no, but the messaging is all wrong. They're not clearing up the message that they want to get and why they feel this way. So yeah, I just wanted to clear that up, that I don't want them to be out of it. I just want their PR to handle it well. The communication
Yeah.
needs to be so much better, because I mean, all of a sudden now we're going to think that the Walt Disney Company doesn't care about families and children. No, like how is that even a thought in someone's mind? I don't know.
Yeah, it is the perfect example of like case study of what you need to do PR wise. You get out in front of an issue and you make your statement known, because the company has allowed a different narrative to take hold in many
Exactly.
instances, where
Exactly.
now, if the company would have come out and from at the beginning talked about how
From the get-go.
important families are and how important um teaching like these stories and all that
For all
is,
families. Yep.
and yeah, and including all families, then it's for some people, yeah, it wouldn't be a different story, but I think for a lot of people it might be a very different situation, which also is really interesting in that, um, moving forward, it's just going to be interesting to see what happens with, there have been a lot of stories that have come out now that a lot of it boils back down to the communication and the PR and everything, to see what happens over the next few years with the company,
We were talking
and how
before.
they right that ship.
We were talking before that you see people online now saying, I've canceled Disney Plus, I've
Yeah,
canceled my annual pass. Let me tell you, the parks don't see it, meaning
yeah,
it's crowded. But if that is happening, it's hard to get away from, like you said, the brand owns so many things. But is it really necessary? I mean, are you really fighting the right? There's so many other enemies to fight out there. I don't think Disney is one of them. I think their intentions are still, they want to make money. They're not going to make money by doing something bad, and they don't want to groom children. Believe me.
well, and the idea that, yeah, like you said, try to stay away from Disney, and you're not going to be able to do it. And I kind of equate, a few years ago when people were, um, canceling, when the NFL Sunday Ticket allowed people to cancel their subscriptions if they were offended by, um, players kneeling on the field or
Oh,
during the national anthem. I remember talking in class and saying, okay, well, I'm sure there are some people who are doing that. How many people do you think are fans of fill in the blank 2 and 14 team, 1 and 15 team, 0 and 16 team? How many of those fans do you think are canceling their subscriptions, as opposed to the fans of the teams who are always in the playoffs or always at the top of their division? Like, there's a lot of other stuff going on that, I think, like you said, there there are other things to worry about. I don't think this isn't the what it's made out to be a lot of times, I think. Um, I don't know how eloquently I really said that,
no, I know
but
what you're saying.
um, I do think it's interesting, and so, because you are such a fan and you live it day to day, um, I mean, like, what do you tell people? What would you tell people about saying it's okay to still say you're a fan of Disney right now? The storm's going to weather and all of that.
For some, I have actually haven't had the question come up, but I've seen it come up to a few of my friends, and I don't think you can convince any. If somebody is steadfast on believing that your association or fandom with Disney now makes, I mean, I've seen the argument go to such crazy lengths of hating one another now because they like Disney. You can't convince that person otherwise. If that's how they feel and that's what they believe, you got to cut the rope and be like, all right, Thanks. I don't really have an answer for that.
Um, what's been really interesting to me is, uh, as you know, the research I do outside of this, and actually I've done a few things with Disney about this as well, but it's about group behavior and why one group of individuals, or I should say, why individuals treat each other different based solely on the groups that they belong to, whether that is different sports teams, political ideology, different brands that you associate with, theme parks that you associate with, why people treat each other differently based on those. And one thing that we have been able to do is compare these different settings that cause more negativity toward the outgroup. Disney theme parks is still among the lowest. It's basically Disney theme parks, comic book fandom, and science fiction fandom. Those are the three lowest, and then at the other end are like sport and politics and online gaming. And it's actually kind of interesting that comics and science fiction fandom are amongst the lowest, because those, when you're reading a comic or you're watching science fiction, typically you have like a good and a bad side and all that. So but I've always viewed Disney as one of those brands that has the ability to bring people together, and has the ability to bring people who are politically opposed or have different maybe religious affiliations and different ideologies, that they can agree on Disney. And that's what I see right now, that the company really needs to weather the storm, because throughout history, these things, companies come out on the, they come out of these things. But they do need to be careful with their messaging, and they need to be more proactive with their messaging moving forward.
And I think and I don't know how many people will actually remember this. All of this occurred when Disney, to take a stance, said that they're going to hold their political contributions. They're not going to donate money anymore. Once they told politicians they weren't going to donate money anymore, all this happened and the politicians fought back. And it's a crazy position for them to be in Florida. So I don't know if that was the right decision for them to do. I guess it was. Just weird that it's a big fight now here in Florida.
Yeah, it is very interesting, to say the
But
least.
it always
And
boils down to money.
yeah,
Always.
yeah. And so getting back to the just or I the park experience and everything else, getting out of just like this kind of weird era that we're in right now with Disney. To wrap up, before we get to the rapid questions, if the Walt Disney Company asked you, if there are, you had 2 or 3 ideas to help the guest experience, and that's the guests at the parks, that could be guests with Disney Plus, it could be, what do we need to do in the movie, with our movies, with our offerings, but they asked you, how could we improve the guest experience right now? What do you think you would tell them?
I would absolutely tell them to get rid of the whole Genie Plus thing. I just think it's a
Okay.
confusing thing. I think it keeps people on their phone, which I think you want to do less of, especially when you're on a family vacation. To me, there's a whole bunch of negatives with it. I would have them bring back Fast Pass, the regular Fast Pass. I don't care if you have to up the ticket price. Charge everybody the $15 extra if you have to. Let's let the chips fall. But I think that whole system is just a negative. I think you have to bring back some more live entertainment quicker, to keep the lines less in the rides and the attractions, by having more to do outside when those characters are there on Main Street and they're interacting with you. It's funny how you'll go home and you'll remember an attraction, but sometimes you'll really remember. Have you ever interacted with like the citizens of Main Street? Don't you remember those
Yes.
interactions? Like,
Yeah.
it's weird what you remember, when the lady said something to your son, or when I went up to, I think it was I forgot her name. I don't know. I forget her name. But when I went up to them in the studios, I remember these things because, right, I don't remember her name, but I remember the situation and how they made me feel. So I'd bring a lot of that stuff back quicker.
And you know what? One, I actually recently spoke to someone about immersion at the parks at Magic Kingdom specifically, and they talked about the citizens of Main Street and basically this idea that cast members, they asked people how immersed they were in different experiences, different rides, and like with the some of the shows and citizens of Main Street and all that. And then they also asked um, how immersed do you think the Imagineers want you to be? And interestingly, people kind of said, well, if I feel like on a scale of 1 to 7, I'm a 5 as far as my level of immersion, I think that's what the Imagineers wanted me to be, because that's kind of like psychologically, we kind of don't want to admit that we we want to take other people and kind of conform them to what we believe. But they also asked what is most important for getting you and keeping you immersed, and what is most important for breaking that immersion. And cast members were the top answer for both of those. That a
I
cast
believe
member
that.
is who gets you to be immersed, but then a bad interaction is also what breaks that immersion for you. And then I do agree with like the technology now, that you have to be on your phone and you have to be planning everything. And I remember this most recent trip, we were watching the Lightning McQueen Racing Academy. And we're trying to figure out lunch and everything. And I look over at my 5-year-old and I'm about to ask him what he wants for lunch. And I'm like, no, you know what? He's good. He's watching a a moving car that is Lightning McQueen. I mean, the show's amazing. Like,
Right, the wheels, the
but
eyes, it looks alive.
and I'm like, you know what? I'm not breaking that for him. Like he's good. He can do that. I do agree that it seems like it's a different experience um in certain ways. I think some of that's good and some of it's bad. Um, but it's interesting to see what is going to come in the future,
Yeah, there
how
are
we're going to move
positives
forward.
to it. Like disabled people, it's positive. They used to have to go to the attraction to get a return time to come back if you have the disability pass. Now they can do it right on their phone.
Okay.
So that's a positive. But for everybody else to have to worry about the battery, the phone being
Hmm.
charged, and all that, I don't know, just seems to take me less out, makes me less immersive than
Yeah. And I wonder if, because and from talking with people, one of the ideas of it is to better control the crowd, send people, disperse people out through the parks, and it seems like that's working. I also wonder if for some people, especially people who visit more regularly, if it's your one time in your lifetime that you're able to go, you're probably wanting to ride as much as you can, because I think that's the way most people view kind of like a successful trip to. But I wonder if it will also cause some of those people who go more often to do less traditional attractions. If you're
hmm,
just, now it truly is an attraction, truly is just walking down Main Street and appreciating Main Street, or appreciating the music in Adventureland or to Tomorrowland, and not
I
really
used to do that in
doing
general.
things.
So, but for other people, that may be something. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we always talk about, I always do stop and smell the roses and enjoy something other than a ride or an attraction. Sometimes just shopping in Japan at Epcot,
Yeah.
I could spend like an hour in that store going, look at all this crazy Japanese awesome stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, and I used to pass it when I was on vacation. I would never stop in the, if the pavilion didn't have an attraction or a ride, it wasn't there.
Well, and that brings up an interesting question, because one thing I've said numerous times is, look, if you lived there, then you could, and I've heard other people say this, like you could go and say, hey, tonight for dinner, let's go and let's eat at Le Cellier. Let's have a nice meal, or let's go eat at the Japan Pavilion or the Germany Pavilion, and it's just kind of like a, you know, it's an evening out with the family or significant other or whatever, and that's just kind of, you can sort of do that spur of the moment. Now, you can you still really do that if
I
you do it
found
in the evening?
50-50.
Okay.
50% chance on my annual pass I can get the reservation. I really haven't not lately, and I wish they would give us an override. Like, let's say the annual pass holders get one override per year. The reservation's blocked out, but they always have room for another one or two. They can do an override. That might be a nice feature to have. But yeah, so far I haven't really been told no. And like I said, you could always almost do the park hopping. So if it's not a holiday, there's almost always some park available every day. And then you can hop over after two if you had to.
So, but then
What's
you,
harder to get is the reservation for the dining because it's been so
okay,
crowded. That's even harder to get. But again, sometimes they do walk-ups.
yeah. So you do have to, if you're a local,
You still got to
you,
plan more than usual.
and you do have to, let's say you want to go have dinner in Epcot. Epcot is booked. So you're going to go over to Hollywood Studios for a little bit. You could even park there and take the Skyliner over, so I can plug the Skyliner, mention it again.
It's true.
Um, you do have to go in, physically go into Hollywood Studios before 2 o'clock, and then at 2 o'clock, or at some point you have to go
I think it could
check
even
in
be
and
after
then you can
two.
leave. Okay.
Yeah, I think it could even be after two, if I'm not mistaken, as long as it is after two when you want to hop back over to the other one. But yeah, you can go in, check in, go to the other one.
Okay. Um, and you know, I would see, because my my marketing teacher brain is screaming at me like the 80-20 rule. Like, you know, 80% of your business comes from 20% of your most loyal customers. And you know, you see a lot in a lot of different settings that doesn't really happen. Cell phones are notorious for it. Mobile phone companies are notorious for always wanting new customers. But it is something that and I think it's somewhat genuine, because I'm saying it, I'm not a local, that I do think if you are a pass holder, that there is a level of loyalty there that should be rewarded with things like, I don't know, maybe it's an add-on package and you get Genie Plus on a daily basis, or maybe, you know, every third time you go you can use it, or whatever.
I'm sure they'll
um
come out with something
yeah, I
like
do
that.
think there are things like that that um would be helpful for the loyal customers. So before we get to the rapid questions, anything else you think would be something you would tell the company, something you want to mention about the 50th anniversary, or you know, like being a fan of Disney right now? Anything else you think would be good to say?
I would really hope that they look at all of their PR and see that it's getting to be more mainstream to kind of get on the negative bandwagon and do what they need to do to stop that.
Okay.
And I'm sure that's being done. I'm sure it's being talked about. They are not oblivious to it. But I would like to know what's being done so that I can feel better about it.
Yeah. Well, and because it has been interesting, you know, for 2 or 3 weeks, it was almost like daily there was news coming out, and not just news about the company, news from the company. And for the last 2 or 3 weeks, it's been very, very quiet.
I think they're
Which,
reassembling. Yeah.
yeah, which is interesting to me. And
Could
especially
be a good
from,
sign. Could be a good sign.
yeah, and especially with, you know, all the stories coming out about what's going to happen with leadership and what's happening with reorganization and at the top and all that, for there to be this kind of period of, let's step back, let's not really put out anything. Yeah, that it could be a sign that they're trying to right the ship and come out with some better messaging, if nothing else. So, all right, so you know, I like to do the rapid questions to
All
finish.
right.
um so I have five,
Oh,
and we may have touched on some of these, but you can explain. You don't have to explain it all if you don't want. Favorite thing that has come from the 50th anniversary celebration?
merchandise. The
Okay.
logo, the colors, the merchandise.
Okay. And one, this wasn't on the list, but it did make me, when you mentioned the 25th anniversary and you said how big of a experience and celebration it was then to now, but is the Cinderella Castle 50th anniversary version, does that at least win out over the 25th anniversary Cinderella Castle?
While it wins, it's still not as much of a wow, they did something different. So yes, it definitely wins. But seeing that castle cake, you can hate it as much as you want. You knew something's going on in this park
Yeah.
when you walked in and saw the Pepto Bismol castle.
Yeah.
I
Um,
liked it. I was young and I thought, wow, that's cool.
yeah. The next one, something you want to stay that has either come from the 50th anniversary or has come from the COVID or come from the pandemic and the safety, the health
Okay,
regulations.
there's a lot of it. Cavalcades, I hope stay.
Mhm.
The castle, I hope it stays kind of decorated the way it is. And those other statues, the golden statues, I hope they stay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's too much to ask for.
What about things to come back, like character meet and
Oh,
greets?
can't wait. Can't
Okay.
wait.
One thing I would say for me is I would like the character interactions back or the character meet and greets, but I have really liked those just kind of distance interactions. Like you see Winnie the Pooh or like um what's the Joy from Inside Out, just kind of wandering around the imagination pavilion,
I agree.
possible rethinking idea.
Winnie the Pooh catching butterflies
Yeah.
in the garden of the Lands Pavilion. I really hope that's it's just amazing to catch it.
Yeah. And it's like the cavalcades. It's something that is
It's
kind of
organic too.
unplanned.
Yeah.
You don't know when it's happening. And I remember being the last time we were there, the excitement that I felt, and then like the rushing over and getting your camera in case the kids don't see it. But like the excitement you feel when you hear the music start and you're like, oh, what is this character cavalcade gonna be?
Something's coming.
And you're like, oh, look, it's Mickey, or hey, look, it's the Pixar characters. It was really, really fun. Um, something that you want, something you would like to see go away from either the 50th or something that's going on right now from like the coming out of the pandemic.
The whole Genie Plus system.
Okay. All
I
right.
just think it's a drag.
Um, and on that, you mentioned earlier about raising ticket prices. I mean, I've had a conversation many times about where is there a tipping point? Is there a tipping point with how expensive tickets get? Every time they raise ticket prices, their attendance takes a big increase.
Mind blown. I don't
So,
get it. I don't get it. If supply and demand is a thing, they have not reached the
yeah.
limit at all.
And that's something that it's interesting, and it does make me think, like, within the details, are there those people that maybe would go once a year that are now going every 3 years, or maybe somebody who said, hey, maybe we'll go now when the kids are young, we'll go maybe in 5-10 years, and they're like, nope, we're only going one time. So I wonder if things like that are happening, what's doing to repeat patronage. But yeah, it is, every time they raise ticket prices you see this increase.
And maybe it's post-pandemic travel and this is all going to burst this bubble. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't think so, but I don't know.
To shift a little bit, what is it what are you watching now on Disney Plus that you would think is a must watch for people?
Disney Plus. Let's see. I'm still really gung ho with the whole Mandalorian,
Okay.
with the whole Boba Fett, Book of Boba Fett, Book of Boba, which really was a Mandalorian
Yeah, it was,
season to me.
yeah, season 2.5.
Yeah. That's the big thing. I also love that some movies like West Side Story are coming out on it.
Yeah.
Like I don't
Yeah.
even see. I don't even know. Is it the connection? I guess is it Fox 20th
Yeah.
Century
Yeah.
Fox?
It was a well, now I guess 20th Century
Yeah,
Studios.
because I would have went to Apple TV and paid like $5 to watch that. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have it on Disney Plus. Yeah, it's still Star Wars for me, more than
Yeah.
Marvel. For
Okay.
me, is Star Wars.
And so then sometime we'll have a conversation about Star Wars with uh maybe you and I and Matt and Stan, and we can get people together to talk
That'd be
about
cool.
all things Star Wars. And so one thing that the class does is the students do a case study about what MCU character they identify with. And the whole premise is, they identify with this character and how would it help them kind of move forward in their life and help them in their professional goals and things like that. If you had to identify an MCU character that you either affiliate with now or you want to identify with, who is it, and why do you think?
It's funny because I definitely, and it's not that I look like this person, but it's Hulk.
Okay.
I actually, and it's not that I have anger issues that I would kill people. I've only killed 4 or 5 people, and nobody knows it. Oh, is this live? Are we? And there's
I
definitely
feel obligated to say that that's not condoned. Go ahead.
okay, good. I feel that as happy and cherub-like as I can be, there are times where I will get enraged and want to break something or yell at someone for hurting me. And I can feel that whole Hulk change come on.
Yeah.
I think in the last 15 years, I've been much more mature about not letting it come out. But I can definitely.
Well, I mean, I'm not very well read. I'm not an expert on it, but I think that that's kind of the story arc, the character arc of Hulk, and like the story that people is supposed to take away is like that kind of, because in the movies or in the comics and movies he becomes Professor Hulk, and he learns how to kind of coexist with understanding your feelings and all of that. It's kind of the same, it's a similar story to like Turning Red and Inside Out and all of that. So yeah, that's a really interesting one. Thank you.
Tell me nobody's picked that one yet.
um I have to think.
Somebody's had to.
I think yeah, people have in the class that they'll write about it, and they'll write about typically 2 or 3, and you get some really amazing stories from the class that
And
are
yeah,
really,
and like
really fun.
Hulk, I've always regretted whatever action I took being in that rage type thing.
Yeah.
Like, just this is something stupid. Something annoyed me so bad and I couldn't get over it. So I was at somebody's truck, the Bronco truck, Bronco.
Mhm.
And how the door only opens up a certain amount to get
Yeah.
in. I actually broke it and pushed it the other way because I got so, and of course I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
I broke somebody's car. And I'm like, okay, that's a Hulkish thing to stop doing crazy stuff like
that. So that's everything that I had. It, like I said, I feel like I ask you on to talk about different things so we could just have
that. Yeah, I
conversations and
can't
everything.
wait to do this again. I'd love to know if the class, are they all asleep now? Is everybody asleep? I would love to know if they liked it.
So for people that want to keep up with what you're doing, what's the best way for people to contact you or
so
keep
I
up
used
with
to say, and it's still true, bigfatpanda.com is my YouTube channel. I am trying to find a balance and still release more videos on there, but you can also catch me on the Diz Unplugged on YouTube. I'm usually on the show 50-50 on their shows. I'm definitely on most of their food reviews and stuff on their Disney Dining channel or their DCL fan channel, Disney Cruise Line fan channel. So you can catch me there too, and send me a note. And if I'm ever up in your area, I'm going to try to visit and surprise you guys.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, that would
I'll surprise the class, not you. You would know.
The still an earlier time we talked about your favorite park. Still Magic Kingdom.
It is only because of certain memories and nostalgia. I'll say I'm there less now because it's so crowded, but that is still my favorite.
Yeah, I think I have to agree. It's not always the first park I go to, but it's the park that I have to go to every time that I'm there. It's like Peter Pan. I have to ride Peter Pan.
I love Animal Kingdom, but if I could have a vacation and not visit it, I don't think I could have a vacation and not visit Magic Kingdom. And it's funny you say Peter Pan, because the other day we went to the Magic Kingdom and we did have the Genie Plus, and the first thing that we went for was Peter Pan.
Yeah,
it's the quickest ride, but it's still fun.
This last trip, the first ride we went on in our vacation was Peter Pan, and the very last ride we went on in our vacation was Peter Pan.
It looks really good, by the way, and I don't know if they did anything. It looks like the lighting was increased, the glow lighting, and the painting was redone. Because I remember looking at the town of London from up above, and I'm like, that looks better than it's ever looked to me.
Yeah, so it looks nice. And I mean, it's just a classic. It is
a ton
of fun.
I do hope we get the pluses to it like they get in Disneyland. There's a little bit of fiber optics and LEDs that they've been adding to things.
Oh,
And it
okay.
makes it just pops it. Doesn't change it, doesn't get rid of the nostalgia of it, but it just pops it.
Hmm. All right. Well, John, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you.
And as I said, it's always a pleasure. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.
Thanks, class. Have a good lunch. Think of me.
Bye.